Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and this is the show where we get to sit around and talk about the things that we love. Movies and movie news, TV and streaming, all those things that give us joy. That's what we're here to talk about, and I'm joined in that discussion today by our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, everyone, happy Tuesday.
And most importantly, of course, you guys are here. Thanks for coming on by and making this little show a part of your day. Here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a bunch of topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show is the most important part. That's where we take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, observation that you'd like us to address, go ahead and fire it on in using the super chat feature in the live chat. And as long as the question you send in via super chat is appropriate for our show, we'll address your question in the second part of the show. All right, guys. A little housekeeping, let you guys know. Today is actually one of my favorite days of the year. It's our gift delivery day. Wow. You guys know we do the Adopt a Family program every year. You guys completely sold out the wish list that we had up on Amazon. Thank you. That includes tablets and electric scooters and books and games and gift cards and all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much to everybody for doing that. I wish all of you could be in the room with us when we deliver these gifts, because it's difficult to put into words how life-changing it is for people when they get that. And it's just an amazing thing how you make a family feel. So thank you for that. And today's the day we're doing that a little bit later. I'm excited about it. All right. That down, guys. Let's get into it here, shall we? And let's start off with this. Of course, it's been since man created the wheel, it has been a law of nature that all video game adaptations completely suck. It is a tradition that has lasted from generation to generation, passed on from father to son for as long as recorded history has been there. But a funny thing has happened in the last couple of years. Some video game adaptation stuff has actually started to be pretty good. I mean, things like the Sonic movies. Not everybody likes the Sonic movies. I find them delightful. Obviously, we've had like The Last of Us, which nominated for Best Show at the Emmys, all that kind of stuff. But one of the other big ones has been Fallout. Fallout, which I believe is an Amazon show, is it not?
Correct.
Fallout came out, and I thought the trailers looked interesting, but I wasn't prepared for how good the show was, and the show did great. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it also got nominated for Best Show of the Year at the Emmys for season 1. So the other day they dropped the trailer for season 2, but now the reviews are out for season 2. Are we in for a sophomore slump? Apparently not, because according right now to Rotten Tomatoes, it's holding 100% right now. Now, I am sure as we get more and more and more reviews come in, I'm sure it won't hold 100%, but the fact that we've got 38 outlets, or 36, I should say, outlets right now have reviewed it, and all of them have given it a positive review, that's a very good sign for Fallout Season 2. So let's jump over and get rid of these things.
And one moment before we do, because I just want to say that X-Men Superfan just sent out 50 gift memberships.
Oh wow. My God.
Thank you.
50?
I hope he didn't mean to send 5.
Yeah, I apologies if you meant to say that's incredibly. Thank you, Superfan. That's amazing. Anyway, back to the story. So here are some of the reviews that we got coming out for Fallout Season 2. Black Girl Nerds wrote, gives it a 4 out of 5, say Fallout returns with an explosive, wildly entertaining second season that delivers more of what made Season 1 so enjoyable. The Daily Telegraph also liked it, saying, when it's two human actors trading insults, Fallout, exploding skulls and all, stands head and shoulders above most video game adaptations. Randy Meeks wrote, the series achieves a perfect balance between loose and literal adaptation, taking all the elements that makes the video game special and reassembling them into a new script, but one framed with very clear guidelines. RogerEbert.com wrote, Fallout never lacks confidence, but it does suffer from a similar diffusion of concept as characters are separated and sent on arcs that feel like they will never intersect. So they liked it, but not perfect. Looper liked it, saying, idealistic heroine Lucy McLean and the cynical ghoul Cooper Howard are by far the best part of the show. But other character subplots have enough intriguing twists and turns this year that you won't get impatient when the focus shifts. CBR really liked it. They wrote, with this season, Fallout cements itself as the definitive post-apocalyptic show and one of the best shows in 2025. Comicbook.com loved it, saying, it's hard not to fall in love with the wastelands and its occupants once again when the creative team is operating at this level. CNET loved it, saying, for a show that explores the gritty underbelly of humanity while tracking topics such as corporate warfare, the military-industrial complex, classism, and the erosion of the nuclear family, it's a truly enjoyable ride. And it just goes on and on. As I said, as of right now, it's holding 100%. Now, I gotta say, the thing that really hooked me into the first season was the ghoul. I mean, that character, Cooper, was just fascinating to me. I love the idea of life in the bunkers. It was just, and you know what really stood out to me great? And not to go off on Pluribus again, but in a juxtaposition of Pluribus, the show had great pace. It just, everything, not that everything was happening really fast, but it had cadence. And it just felt like the story flow of every episode did just that. It flowed. And I feel like every episode of it, I feel like I just started watching, blinked, and then the ending was there. That's great pace. That's great cadence. Wonderful characters, sharp dialogue. I just really enjoyed the show. Again, I don't put it on the same level as some of the top of the top of the top shows, but I thought it was great. And truly one of those kind of road markers kind of signifying that the winds have changed as far as that old law of all video game adaptations suck. And now because of shows like this and Last of Us, that people like us can get excited about, God of War coming and stuff like that. Whereas if God of War was coming out a few years ago, we would have been a lot more pessimistic. Anyway, Rob, these reviews sound great. How did you feel about the first season of Fallout, and what are you taking away, and what are you picking up from these reviews we're getting for season 2?
Well, I'm with you, John. I mean, this is an example of great entertainment made by creators. I mean, first of all, Jonathan Nolan is a top-tier creator. I know a lot of people were iffy on Westworld. I understand that, but he he wrote the original draft of Interstellar when Spielberg was going to direct it, but he co-wrote that with his brother. It's not, when you have top-tier creators, they can usually work in all genres. And this is an example, I think, one of the real problems with people that were trying to make video game adaptations, at least from my perspective, is that they looked down on video games as a source material. Whereas if you play Last of Us dramatically, it's a video game, but it's just as dramatically engaging as a book or a great movie is. The characters are rich. The situations were really well developed. And the real question is how do you approach that material with the reverence it needs? Just because it's a video game doesn't mean it's not a story that's worth giving an A-list effort to translating. I mean, I think everything has had that problem. Horror had that problem. Comic books had that problem. All these genres that people have poo-pooed and looked down upon. But when you have a creator like Jonathan Nolan, he comes and he goes, Fallout has great satire. It has great science fiction. It's got great post-apocalyptic. It has that road warrior feel. It's got Paul Verhoeven-like satire and comedy in it. It's ripe for social and public, societal satire, and it has a really compelling narrative at its core. So just because it came from a video game doesn't mean it can't turn into something great. And this is what great adaptation is all about. And I think that they've nailed this show. Everything from the design of it.
Oh, the design is beautiful.
I mean, I know that they had all the video game design, because people take all that stuff for granted. I remember looking at BioShock and thinking, this is one hell of a beautiful looking video game. I remember Myst, going to the environments of Myst when I first played, Spider-Man,
Spider-Man
video game that we saw, Uncharted.
Okay.
Those
Spider-Man?
backgrounds, when I first put on and played the first Uncharted, I'm like, this is gorgeous.
Back in the day, yeah.
Amazing. But yeah, and watching this, so this is a creator, Jonathan Nolan and his wife, right? And they looked at this and they said, we know how to turn this into prestige television. And because they'd already done an HBO show, regardless, Amazon believed in them. They probably had a great presentation. And look what you get when you trust creators that are aiming high. When you take a video game property and say, look, this isn't a video game. This is an incredible story, an incredible universe with incredible characters, and we're going to translate it from one medium to the next. And we get this. And it's not surprising to me that season 2 is even better.
Well, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Are you surprised to see the reviews so far? Again, it's holding on 100% right now. I'm sure that will drop, obviously, a little bit. It's got nowhere further up it can go. But still, it's positive hearing this type of reception for it so soon. Are you looking forward to season 2 of Fallout? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Obviously, the biggest story in the world of movie news for the last couple of weeks has been the pending purchase of Warner Brothers and the current ongoing bidding war there seems to be for it, with Netflix having won the bidding war. But, you know, it ain't over till it's over. Paramount is still trying to get it. Netflix seems pretty confident they're going to end up with it, but we'll see how that turns out. But you guys remember, for me, in the early days of Warner Brothers announcing they were putting themselves up for sale, I said that the worst possible scenario was Netflix getting it. And I explained why. Now, I also said, now look, if Netflix says they'll let Warner Brothers continue to exist as its own entity and that they will be committed to theatrical releases, that will soften my position. Well, what happened after that was Netflix did come out and say, Warner Brothers is still going to continue to exist as a standalone studio, and we are going to continue to put them out theatrically. But does he mean it? I'm not sure what he has to gain by lying about that, but does he mean it? Well, there's a new development in this where they are now really doubling down on that. As a matter of fact, even going a little bit further. A letter was sent out by Ted Sarandos to all the employees of Netflix just to kind of confirm and clarify everything that's happening with the Warner Brothers takeover and what that would mean. There's a couple of interesting things I want us to touch on here. This comes to us from Cord Cutter News that writes, the letter shared by Business Insider reiterates Netflix's commitment to releasing Warner Brothers films in theaters, writing, we haven't prioritized theatrical in the past because that wasn't our business at Netflix. When this deal closes, we will be in that business. And now, of course, we heard him kind of say something like that a little bit earlier. Peters and Sarandos told employees that they don't intend for this deal to mean the end of movie studios in favor of streaming, promising no overlap or studio disclosures. Now, let's go to the actual quote from the letter itself, where it is, where did it go? Will we preserve the theatrical releases as a part of Warner Brothers' distribution model? Yes! This is the letter itself. We're fully committed to releasing Warner Brothers movies in theaters just as they do it today. Theatrical is an important part of their business and legacy, and we don't want to change what makes Warner Brothers so valuable. If this deal had happened 2 years ago, again, he's given this analogy before, hits like Minecraft and Superman would still have premiered on the big screen as they did, and that's how we plan to keep it. We haven't prioritized theatrical in the past because that wasn't our business at Netflix. But when this deal closes, we're going to own Warner Brothers, and we will be in that business. All right, so two big things kind of stand out to me here. Number one is, again, the redoubling down, saying, look, we are going to keep Warner Brothers theatrical, not because we're going to be nice to the people who want it to stay theatrical. We're keeping it theatrical because that's what makes them valuable. We're not going to take Warner Brothers and try to make it a part of Netflix. Netflix is Netflix. We didn't prioritize theatrical there because that isn't what Netflix is. But we're not suddenly going to make Warner Brothers a streaming company, HBO Max notwithstanding, because that's not what Warner Brothers is. What makes them valuable is theatrical. We've never been in the theatrical business, and we didn't want to with Netflix. But now we are in the theatrical business because that is Warner Brothers. I'm not going to lie to you. If Netflix ends up winning this whole thing, I'm very happy to hear that. The second thing that's pretty interesting to me is, you know, no matter who gets Warner Brothers, whenever there's a merger, let's look back at when Disney bought 20th Century. You get one big movie studio buying another big movie studio. Well, now all of a sudden you have a bunch of redundant jobs. You head of PR. Well, we have a head of PR over Disney and a head of PR. We don't need two. We don't need two of this and two of that. And what happens as a result of these mergers is, while definitely not all of them, but thousands of people end up getting laid off. One of the most interesting quotes to me in this letter that Sarando said to the Netflix employees was that there was going to, quote, be no overlap. He didn't say not a ton of overlap. He said there's going to be no overlap. Again, because Netflix is a streaming company, Warner Brothers is a theatrical motion picture company. They both do a little bit more than that, but that's the general gist. Now, I don't believe for a second that means that if Netflix does end up buying Warner Brothers, then that means that there will be zero layoffs. But Rob, what I take away from it is that the scale of layoffs we're accustomed to seeing once one company merges with another large company, I don't think we're going to get that. I do expect some layoffs, but it sounds like when he's emphasizing there's no overlap, well, then there's no redundant positions. There's no things that need to be pared back. Again, I'm expecting some, but my guess it'll be in the dozens rather than in the thousands. That's my guess, as opposed to if Paramount gets it. And again, listen, I think there are upsides to Paramount getting it, but if Paramount gets it, that is a primarily big theatrical studio buying another primarily big theatrical studio. There's going to be a ton of overlap and there's going to be a ton of layoffs. With Netflix, I'm suspecting there's not going to be as many. Anyway, Rob, you read through this letter. What points are standing out to you the most and what are you taking away from it?
Well, like you, I'm very happy to hear this. Warner Brothers has already been stripped down to the bone. There is not a lot of fat there. And I don't think there really is a lot of redundancy because it is primarily focused on theatrical and to a certain extent home video and of course HBO. I think it's great to hear this. I think Ted Sarandos is, again, it sounds good. You know, let's see how it plays out.
Good. Yeah.
If this merger actually goes through, let's see how it plays out in year 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Let's see. I mean, I hate to say it, but the big variable here is the theatrical marketplace itself. The theatrical marketplace itself must stay healthy and robust. Now, right now, when you have movies like Zootopia 2 burning up the charts and Avatar opening this weekend.
And 2026 looking very promising.
And knowing that we have genre films like, who thought Five Nights at Freddy 2 would make $100 million? I guess
Weapons would do as well as it did.
Weapons did $250 million on a $38 million spend. Fantastic. And as long as this kind of stuff is happening and the theatrical marketplace stays a robust place to release films, it stands there. It's marketing for Netflix on whatever goes out on, and then Netflix gets all of their theatrical, and they also, which I think is great, what I'd like to see happen is Netflix make a concerted effort to take Warner Brothers catalog pre-1960 and not just Wizard of Oz or Casablanca or any of those things, but all of their movies, all of the musicals they own, the westerns they own, and make sure that they have a second life, because they're doing a wonderful job restoring these films, but the only people that see them are the people who bought them on Warner Archive, and they're doing such a great job over there, and they've got a robust and a deep catalog. And the thing is, you know, it's like watching Gen Z go discover records that were made in the 60s and listen to them and react. I think a lot of people would have a lot of fun with this massive catalog that Warner Brothers has that goes all the way back to the 20s that nobody is seeing, because you can't. It doesn't exist anywhere. But if Netflix said, here's our classic, Warner Brothers brings you classic cinema from the dawn of the era. I mean, you've got 60 years of incredible movies that you could barely see. And I'd like to see, and Netflix, all they have to do is put it up on servers.
Well, listen, I completely believe that's part of what they see the value in Warner Brothers is doing that. And now listen, this is not to say that Warner Brothers won't have any changes. Like Netflix, we talked about that report the other day that Netflix plans on taking, for instance, DC's streaming shows, and instead of having them be on HBO Max, they want to take those and directly put them on Netflix. So there is going to be some cross-pollination there, but it sounds like for the most part, maybe no redundancy. And if that's the case, that's really good. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? I am admittedly softening more and more on the idea of Netflix getting their hands on Warner Brothers. My first choice is still for Warner Brothers to stay completely independent, but that's probably not going to happen. Anyway, whatever you guys take away from it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. Well, without a lot of fanfare, very quietly, they dropped the first teaser trailer for that new mystery Steven Spielberg movie, the one that said all will be disclosed. Well, here we are. Disclosure Day has dropped its first trailer. And I'm not going to lie to you, I get some Close Encounter of the Third Kind vibes from it, and that is in no way a bad thing. Emily Blunt, as always, looks fantastic. I'll tell you what, though, this Josh O'Connor. I don't know how many of you guys have had a chance to watch Knives Out 3 yet, but he's awesome in Knives Out 3. And him and Josh Brolin playing off of each other was just awesome to watch.
Josh Brolin was amazing.
Yeah, he was so
Wake
good
Up
in
Dead
that.
Man.
But, I mean, Josh O'Connor looked great in that, and he looks really good in this. I'll tell you what, this had sci-fi feel to it. It had horror feel to it. Like that whole thing when, you know, he claps his hands and the girl's clapping her hands, or the little old trope of the close-up on the eyes and the eyes changing. I just thought this looked great. Again, if this was the last trailer to come out before the movie, I wouldn't be all that thrilled. But for a first teaser that's not supposed to give us much of anything, just kind of introduce a vibe, introduce a tone. I got to tell you, Rob, I thought this looked great. And if I knew nothing, which we basically did, but if I didn't even know a new Spielberg movie was coming, and I just saw this today, I'm thrilled. I love what I see. I think it feels great. I can only now speculate and guess about where it's going, but that's what you get. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to see the teaser. How did you feel about it?
I am on the fence about this one. I was really excited. I've been really intrigued. I guess in my mind, it had achieved mythic proportions. But again, you can tell it's Spielberg. The scenes, the camera moves, everything very, very interesting. I love where they're going with it. I love the story. But you know what? It's a combination of elements that I think that have been touched on in other movies before. Like you pointed out, Close Encounters, obviously that. There's a little M. Night Shyamalan going on in here with some of the animals and the lights in the houses and there's I think it's a great teaser, but I think they're being really cagey with what happens in this movie.
Oh, for sure.
So
yeah, 100%.
they had to announce it. They had to come out and give you Disclosure Day, and they gave you, I think, the bare minimum. What does Leonardo DiCaprio say in Django? Now you have me. Now you have my attention.
Yeah.
Yes. Now you have my attention. And you had my attention anyway because it's Steven Spielberg. And I will say that whatever she's talking, whatever weird clicking alien language,
And breathing is
that was really effective.
Oh, like a friend of mine texted me earlier today and said the sound design of that moment. It was the sound design.
And when they put it over the title at the end, I mean, I'm in. John Williams score. I am intrigued. I love seeing the crop circle too. You know, you can't not think of things like Signs. You know, but I'm in because I love all those things.
But to be fair, those things didn't invent that. It's just
right. No, that's what I mean. And it's we'll see where it goes. I'm really excited. First of all, I'm just excited to get a new Steven Spielberg movie. To be honest, I mean, even Steven Spielberg movies like Always, that are remake, are pretty great when you go back and look at them now. It's like, wow.
Oh no, they're awesome.
I mean, the guy is he is a savant. He's been a savant since he was 21 years old. The guy knows how to no one knows how to stage a scene like him.
Oh, and again, I think he is de facto the greatest filmmaker of all time because he can do it all, man. Musicals, westerns, sci-fi, action, like he just does it all.
And the production design, like the scientific sports book. That's what I was going. It's a scientific sports book. The big displays that they have and the overhead stuff. There's a lot of cool.
I mean, even this shot has like.
I mean, this looks like a Christmas.
This
card.
has overtones of fantasy.
That looks like a Christmas.
It
card.
does.
It
Welcome
really
to
does
our
look
house
like a
for
Christmas
Christmas.
commercial.
What was the movie with Osmond? Was that AI or was
Yeah. The one that he took over for
kind of a feel of the way this is shot here with the lens. This is probably a similar lens and the lens flare and everything. Kind of reminds me of that movie.
Yeah. I think, did Janusz Kaminski shoot this? I would assume he did. I don't know.
I'll look it up.
Anyway, I really like the look of it for a first initial little tease.
Certainly intriguing.
Yeah, it's definitely intriguing. Guys, whatever you thought about this first little tease we got for Disclosure Day, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's get ready to play a little game here of what's more likely. A little bit earlier today, we jumped on the YouTube channel and we asked you guys to submit some scenarios for what's more likely. Jonathan's pulled out a bunch of them. So Jonathan, what do we got up first?
Okay, Rob, what's first up
Here we
here?
go.
Yeah, what's more likely when we hear from Knight Rider? Marvel releases Doomsday teaser online or just theaters?
Oh, I think they're going to do both. No one's going to release. Look, Christopher Nolan, when he shows his IMAX previews that are like 6 minutes long, those don't wind up online. They haven't. That's one thing. But teasers, I mean, one of the things about Marvel is their teasers and they usually have a teaser and 2 main trailers. Those things get watched millions and tens of millions, hundreds of millions of times. They are integral to the marketing of these movies. Those trailers, those teasers are going to wind up on the internet, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Oh, also, the cinematographer was Kaminski.
It
He did
is.
Minority Report.
Yeah.
All that.
All the way back to Schindler's
Yeah,
List.
look, it's 100% that it's going to end up online. And now, if you were asking the question about will it drop online prior to dropping in theaters,
Yeah.
that's a different question. But if you're asking will it be online or just in theaters, oh, it's going to be online as well. Absolutely. Now, I don't know whether they're going to wait 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours after it debuts in theaters. It's not going to be long after it debuts in theaters because they're not going to want, 5,000 bootleg phone copies of it floating around. But yeah, it's absolutely going to be online, 100%. I just don't know how long after it debuts in theaters. All right, what's next?
Okay, John, we're going to switch over to you now. What's more likely when we hear from Josh? Michael, that's the biopic movie, is the biggest movie in April, or Mario?
I've been saying this and I'm going to stick with it. I think it's more likely that it's Michael. Again, the Mario Brothers movie, the first one, $1.3 billion. You can't sneeze at that. But I liked it too. I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was great. And I don't know that it's going to make more money the second time around than the first. So I'm putting the Mario Brothers movie somewhere around $1 billion. I think it can join the $1 billion club. But I'm putting Michael significantly higher than that. I think the potential for Michael is much higher. Now, again, if the movie sucks, that'll change things. But right now, with the information we have, I think it's more likely that Michael ends up being the bigger film. Rob?
I'm with you 100%. I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody did $900 million.
Yeah.
And I would say, first of all, I think Anton Fuqua is not spoken of highly enough.
He's awesome. I love him.
I gotta say, I want to party with that guy only to sit down and talk to him about movie making because I'm obsessed with his Equalizer movies. Those movies are, again, wildly entertaining. They don't get as much love as the John Wick movies and Denzel Washington's, and those movies are so satisfying.
I enjoyed them a lot.
And he just knows how to make movies. And I think because he's never made, I mean, Training Day was really prestigious, and Denzel won an Oscar for that. And that movie's incredible. But he likes to have fun. That guy likes to have fun. And Michael is his prestige movie. I think this is his breakout film. And that dude, those trailers, the performances he gets from his actors, even in what I would consider B movies like Olympus Has Fallen, I love his movies. And the guy that they
I
have,
even didn't mind his Magnificent Seven.
no, I know. Again,
I had fun with that one.
that movie was exactly what it was supposed to be. And the guy that he had, I don't know who, I don't know exactly, I forget who his name is, but playing Quincy Jones. It's kind of like when I saw Matthew Good playing,
Bubby.
in The Offer, playing Bob. I would watch a movie, just seeing the clips we've seen in the trailer. I would watch a Quincy Jones movie with that guy in it, just because I love his performance in the trailer. I think this movie is going to rock with you, maybe. And I
agree.
think it's going to make a lot of money.
All right, what's next?
All right, Rob, we move on to our third. What's more likely here? From Josh Miller, Nintendo makes a Luigi's Mansion movie or Donkey Kong movie?
since you're asking that particular question, I'm going to go with Luigi's Mansion.
Really? Okay.
Only because, I mean, Donkey Kong, as much as I like the game, a little limited in scope. Whereas Luigi's Mansion, if they come up with a good idea, who knows where that could go. But then again, a Donkey Kong movie could be great, but I just think there's more story potential in Luigi's Mansion.
So if the question was, which is the better idea, I would say Luigi's Mansion. They should absolutely make a Luigi's Mansion.
Yes.
But you're asking what's more likely? There was a game that just got nominated for Game of the Year and won a bunch of game awards in Donkey Kong. What's the name of the new game?
Donkey Kong World, or
I've been
I
playing
didn't know
it.
that.
We've got it on the Switch, and
Is it
anyway,
good?
the whole Smash everything thing, and it is wildly popular. Donkey Kong Bonanza. It is absolutely a ball. It is such a visceral game. It's the whole premise of the game is just, it's fun, just walking around and smashing stuff. That's just fun, and it just is. Now, again, I think Luigi's Mansion. If the folks at the studio were to call me and say which one should we do, I would say Luigi's Mansion. But I think the more likely one that they'll probably do, given the success of the recent game, is probably Donkey Kong. All right, what's next?
Makes sense, though. I didn't know about the game.
All right. Next up, John, we're going to hear from Team Caboozles when he says, what's more likely, Wake Up Dead Man gets an Oscar nomination for screenplay, or one of the actors gets a nomination for their performance?
By the way, I really enjoyed Wake Up Dead Man.
It's really good.
I had such a great time with it. I'm a sucker for a lot of the themes that they covered in. And again, I'm always a sucker for a mystery. That said, I think it is more likely that it gets a nomination for screenplay. Not that I think that it will, but I think it's more likely for that. I have just not, while I love the performances in the movie, Jeremy Renner is not getting enough love for his performance in this movie. I thought he was actually really quite good, even though it's a supporting role. But I have heard zero buzz about acting nominations for Wake Up Dead Man. Again, the performances are great, but I've heard no buzz about that. I've heard some whispers about maybe screenplay. So I'll say it's more likely, not that it will, but it's more likely that it gets a screenplay nomination. Rob, what about you?
I think you're right about that, because the script is really good. The mystery is really good, and all the twists and turns are great. And look, all the acting in this, it's to be expected. It's so well cast. I mean, there's this scene at the beginning where the young priest is just having a prayer meeting, and you see all the characters like sitting around, and they all bail on him. I don't know why. I love that scene just because of, especially I've always loved Glenn Close. She's so
By
good.
the way, if anybody in the movie's going to get a nomination, it's Glenn Close.
And she should win finally. Give that woman her Oscar. Come on, man. Glenn Close has been killing it since, I don't know, World According to Garp.
That's going deep into the Robin Williams well. Woo, that's going way back. All right, what's next?
All right, Rob, is our penultimate question here. Lieutenant John says, what's more likely, Man of Tomorrow makes $1 billion or Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse makes $1 billion?
Look, man, I got to go with Spider-Man. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. I mean, you've got two banger films, two of the greatest superhero movies ever made, two of the greatest, I would say, animated fantasy films ever made, certainly in America. And if I could see Beyond the Spider-Verse crossing $1 billion. Now, Man of Tomorrow, if it's really, 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 really good, could. But I'm going to go with Spider-Man on this one.
Oh, gosh. I think it's tight, but I think it is more likely that Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse does. Is that, what's the name of the third one? Beyond. Yeah.
Beyond the Spider-Verse.
I think it's more likely that it does. Look, the first Spider-Verse movie made like just shy of 400 million, like 390 million, right? The second one did this, made 690 million, nearly made $700 million. And it's, again, Rob, I'm glad you said that. They're not only, I thought both of them should have won Best Animated Film both the years they came out. But not only do I think those two are the two de facto best Spider-Man movies ever made, I think they're better than the Raimi ones. I think they're better than the John Watts ones. And I love the Raimi and the John Watts ones. But I think Into and Across the Spider-Verses are the single two best Spider-Man movies ever made. But I never thought of it in those terms until you just said it. They're also two of the best comic book movies ever made.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're both in the top 5 or anything, but I think they're in the discussion for some of the best comic book movies ever made. And that trajectory that we saw in the box office from 1 to 2, I think has the potential to continue that trajectory into 3. And I don't think right now that Man of Tomorrow is a $1 billion film. I think we see it bump up from Superman, but I don't think it's going to be a $1 billion film. Whereas Beyond the Spider-Verse, I think it's very believably could be a $1 billion film. So I'm going to say it's more likely that Spider-Verse hits that $1 billion mark. All right. What's next?
Okay, next up, John, is our final What's More Likely. We hear from SOS Studios and says, what's more likely is Zootopia 2 becomes the highest grossing movie of the year or Avatar Fire and Ash?
You know what? I have said from the beginning that Avatar Fire and Ash is going to be the highest grossing movie of the year. I'm not so sure about that now. Because remember, I've also said that I don't believe that Avatar Fire and Ash is getting to $2 billion. My target for it is about the 1.5, which still makes it in the conversation of the highest grossing films of all time. But Zootopia, which I always thought had a chance to make $1 billion, well, it crossed $1 billion in like 11 days. And if I'm sticking with that, my target number for Avatar was around the 1.5, 1.6. So then the question becomes, can Zootopia pass that 1.5, 1.6? And it's become clear that it can. It can. So right now, I'm going to still say it's more likely that Avatar ends up being the #1 film of the year, box office wise. But today, Rob, I stand before you as somebody much less certain about that conviction than I was 3 weeks ago.
Sure.
So, but I'm still going to say more likely it's Avatar. Rob, as somebody who's seen Avatar already, what's more likely, Zootopia or Avatar is the #1 film of the year?
I got to go with Avatar. I think that Avatar is going to have an adult contingent that doesn't go out and see animated films regardless. I also think that Avatar, while there's a lot of criticisms that have been leveled at the film that is very sort of repetitive with Fire and Water, Way of Water and Fire and Ash, because they're basically two parts of the same film. So it makes sense. But I have to say that as an Avatar fan, I thought Avatar Fire and Ash was an incredibly satisfying experience. I mean, you sit there with your jaw open, and there's some really interesting character beats, and there's some really interesting ramifications for Pandora itself and where this is all going to go. And it was 3 hours and 15 minutes that felt like 2 hours to me. So I think this movie's really going to, but then again, because it's so long, it's got it has half the shows that Zootopia 2 would. So it's going to take a while for it to catch Zootopia 2, but I think it will.
All right, guys, and that wraps up today's session of What's More Likely. Thank you to everybody who sent in some scenarios for us. Again, keep your eyes open on the YouTube channel when we do put out a call for submissions, and we'll always pick out a few, and maybe you'll see yours on the next round of What's More Likely. All right, guys, listen, we still have a couple of other things to talk about here, including the full reviews are now out for Avatar Fire and Ash, and they're actually the lowest in the franchise's history, but it's actually not as bad as that sounds. Anyway, that and the alleged Avengers Doomsday trailer leak. How likely is it that it's authentic? But more importantly, if it is, what do we think about it? We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second here and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at PrizePicks. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this episode, PrizePicks. Honestly, this is the best time of year for sports. We've got hockey, basketball's heating up, football pushing towards the playoffs, and big games happening every single night. And while we can sit around and argue about which team's going to win, there's one place where it just feels good to be right, and that's PrizePicks. What I love most about PrizePicks is just how simple it is. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, build your lineup, and that's it. No drafts, no season-long commitments, just jump in whenever you want. And I have been having a blast making lineups while watching games, and it honestly makes every matchup way more fun to follow. One of the coolest things about it is that they've just added early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may have the option to cash out before the game even finishes. And I also love how flexible it is. Whether you're going for safer flex play or bigger power plays, PrizePicks makes everything super clear with their payout multipliers. So here's what you do. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code Campea to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Campea to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. And thank you to our friends at PrizePicks for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. Okay, guys, with that down, let's move on to this. Well, Thursday night, I got my tickets. Avatar, Fire and Ash, 17 years. It feels like we've been waiting for this. Maybe 27 years we've been waiting for this. Maybe another 37 until the next one comes out. But it is upon us. It is here. Yea, verily. Avatar, Fire and Ash is nigh. And as a result, the reviews are now out. Now, we got our first reactions before, all skewed very positive. But now the full reviews are out. And as we go over to Rotten Tomatoes, we see with 125 full reviews in, it's setting at 70%. Now, that's a decent critic score. But it makes the Avatar, Fire and Ash stand as the least well-reviewed movie of the three. Now, that is true. What is also true, though, is Avatar Way of Water did have a better score, but not that much better. I think it was like 74, 75, 76%. And the first Avatar film was the highest rated of all of them at 81. But I want to point out here that while Avatar Fire and Ash, that 70% does represent the lowest number, there is literally only 11% difference between the lowest Avatar Fire and Ash and the highest Avatar, and only about 5 or 6% difference between this and Way of Water. For the record, I loved Way of Water. I think it was better than the first one, myself personally. I didn't think it was movie of the year, but I loved it. I had a great time with it. So it's kind of right in the same range as the other ones, but it is the lowest. And so we want to make sure we point out that it was the lowest. Well, what are these critics saying about Avatar, Fire and Ash? Let's go over and take a look at some of them. Cine Express didn't like it. They said James Cameron, again, doesn't disappoint on the big screen spectacle. That said, his third visit to Pandora is a frustrating rehash of the first two films. There you go. The Jam Report liked it. They said, a reminder that spectacle can only carry a story so far. Cameron remains unmatched in his ability to create worlds, but this time the narrative feels like it's treading water rather than forging something truly new. San Jose Mercury News liked it, saying, does it hit many of the same narrative beats as the fight scenes? It does. But there's just enough new here to whet our appetite for a fourth film. One can only hope just a tad shorter, because it is a long movie. Matt Donato didn't like it. Says, it's not that performers cannot convey emotion through motion capture techniques, but rather that the stories around them do not enable grand moments of resilience or tragedy. Eric Goldman liked it, saying, even though it's going through the motions, it's going through the motions for James Cameron making an Avatar movie. So that still puts it on higher pedestal than a lot of motion picture experiences. Time Out liked it, saying, unlike the first two Avatars, which even haters would concede were epic journeys of discovery, with Cameron as an attentive guide to a dazzling alien universe, a sense of familiarity kicks in. Bloomberg liked it, saying, Cameron spins moments of genuine awe, even if he frustratingly repeats familiar beats of The Way of Water. Still, there's also something comforting about returning to this land. Anyway, they go on and on and on. We're obviously not going to go through all 125. The basic sense we got is essentially the same ones we got from the initial reactions that came out online a few weeks ago, which is amazing, awe-inspiring, jaw-dropping, visually gorgeous film, blah, blah, blah. Alternatively, feels a little bit familiar to Way of Water, some familiar story beats, not a lot of new ground broken here. So kind of exactly what we got in the initial reactions. My takeaway from it, though, is this. to me, you guys know movies are experiential events. What experience do you give me? And experience gets created in multiple different ways, just like your favorite dish will have a lot of different ingredients. And if I walk out of that movie where I'm overwhelmed by the joy of the visuals and the adventure of it and stuff like that, if the story beats seem familiar to the previous movie, I'm okay with that. They are indeed the same characters. It's the same world. It's the same story. So I don't know that that's going to rub me as much the wrong way. Now, look, if this was a different franchise altogether and it felt like another franchise, James Cameron's Avatar: The Way of Water, it might affect me a little bit more negatively. But if this is the third part of the same continuing story, I'm okay with that. So I am not deterred by what I'm hearing here. As a matter of fact, it just kind of gets me more excited for the movie because of the awe and wonder and spectacle of it all. And listen, I'll tell you what, I've never felt that the story beats were ever the strong point of either the first Avatar movie or the second. And I really enjoyed both those movies. So right along the lines of what I'm expecting, not surprised that it's within 11% of all three of the movies are all within 11% of their critic rating for it. And again, because it's so similar to what we heard in the initial reactions, I'm not surprised to read what I'm reading. Rob, a lot of this sounds very in line with what you told me about the movie after you saw it. So what are you making of these reviews and how are you feeling about the movie overall?
No, I think they're very fair. I think that first of all, the Avatar films in general have to overcome the fact that they're very, in a way, old-fashioned. They're not, even though what you're watching is incredibly accomplished, it's brilliant filmmaking and all that, it still has an old-fashioned storytelling sensibility to it. And no one's ever going to think that Avatar, like if you're 20 years old, you're not going to walk around because Avatar, you're not going to talk about Avatar the way you talk about John Wick, for instance. It's never going to have that. That said, I think these are fair. I think a lot of these story beats are the same. However, the spectacle of this film and the stuff that goes on, the action sequences, I was completely transported. I wanted to spend more time. There's a lot of really intriguing story elements to this film that I found. I wish they would delve into the science fiction elements of Pandora more, but I understand what they're doing. And I think that there was a lot more movie here. Actually, I know for a fact that there was a lot more movie here, and they cut it down to make it 3 hours and 15 minutes. But I think when I saw this movie at the Directors Guild Theater, my jaw was on the floor. And like you said, there are no better experiential events than these movies. The soundtrack, the spectacle, the action, the visuals. I'm like, let it wash over you, man. I mean, don't expect, Moses is not going to show up with 2 stone tablets, but you watch this and it's really affecting. It's really emotional, and you really do feel like you've been through an experience. And I felt the end of it was very, very satisfying. If they never make any more Avatar movies, it ends on a great note.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Right now, the critic rating for Avatar: Fire and Ash is the lowest of the 3 movies, but they're all in the same ballpark, right? Between 70 and 81, only 11% separates the top one from the bottom one. What do you think about what we're hearing coming out of it? It sounds right along the lines of what we've heard before. Are you excited to see the movie? I know I still am, but whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this. The other day, allegedly a trailer leak, the upcoming Avengers Doomsday trailer leaked. Of course, we're going to be getting it officially in theaters in front of Avatar on Thursday night. But a version of it leaked online. And, you might as well put up a little bit of a spoiler. I feel stupid putting up a spoiler warning for a trailer. It seems ridiculous. It's a commercial, guys. We should be able to talk about it completely opening. Anyway, but we'll put this up there for now anyway, because we're talking about a trailer. But that said, and with a spoiler warning being given, it basically was a motorcycle pulls up to a house, guy walks into the house. You then realize the guy walking into the house is Steve Rogers, holding the Captain America suit, putting it away, and then he's holding a baby. Right? That's the big whoa moment. It said there's a baby. So there are 2 questions that need to be asked. One is, is it legit? And then 2 is, if legit,
Is it too? Never mind. Go ahead.
if it is, are you going to say is it too legit to quit?
Yes.
I
But then I
knew
thought
where
you were about
going
to
with
start.
that.
I thought you were going to start talking, and then I'd be talking over you. So I was like, timing's off.
Too legit to quit. So is it legit? And then secondly, if it is legit, what do we think about it? Now, I'm going to say this. It certainly looks legit. It is consistent with some whispers we've heard months ago about it. So it's perfectly consistent with things we'd heard about before. It certainly looks legit. The biggest holdup for me about 100% buying into the legitimacy of it is this. I know for a fact the runtime of this trailer. And this thing we saw did not nearly match the runtime of that trailer. So, I don't know. Was what was leaked only a part of what's going to be the fuller thing? That's totally possible. So we'll leave that for now. Again, the only reason I doubt the validity is simply because I know what the runtime is, and that wasn't the runtime, like even close to it. But maybe there's more to it, and so there's that. Okay, so that's fine. So let's say for a second here, that it is indeed legit, as it, on many ways, it does appear to be. What do we think about it? I'm underwhelmed. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm underwhelmed. And I'm a little bit disappointed. Now, on the one hand, the joygasm is that you guys know, while my all-time favorite comic book character is indeed Magneto, my favorite MCU character is Steve Rogers. 100% he's my favorite character in the MCU. I think him and Tony represented the heart and soul of the MCU. And what did I tell you years ago? And you all said I was stupid for thinking it. After Endgame, I said, make no mistake, both Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans will be back. It may not be into this year. It may not be next year, but eventually they will both be back. No, John, you didn't hear him in an interview. He said, that's it. He's putting the thing away. Oh, that's fine. They're both back. Said it. Here we are. Now, super excited to see Chris Evans on screen. Super excited that he's going to be back. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Remember that one report came out that said, this is going to be a very Steve Rogers heavy movie, Doomsday. And so how big, we don't know, but I love that. I think it's important that as they try to reestablish Marvel and get its footing back and get the ship steered in the right direction again, that at least temporarily you got to bring back Robert Downey Jr., you got to bring back Chris Evans. You have to. They are the faces of the MCU. They are the heart and soul of the MCU. And if you want to move on, you got to first right the ship, and I think getting them there to right the ship first so then you can move on later on is very important. But John, you may be wondering to yourself, if all that is true and you're so excited to see him back, why would you say you're kind of let down by this? I'll tell you why. Because, Rob, if I'm sitting in Avatar and we didn't know that Avengers Doomsday was coming, and this trailer dropped, oh my God, I'd be losing my mind. Losing my mind. But they've already announced the movie. They literally, remember 2 years ago? Little thing called Comic-Con? The Russo brothers, Kevin Feige out on stage, ladies and gentlemen, Robert Downey Jr., and they walk out Robert Downey Jr., and they made a big show and a spectacle. I mean, they announced the movie. We know it's coming. And while the movie is still a year away, and I have been saying emphatically, you got to limit in scope what the trailer is because the movie's still a full year away, but you never get a second chance to make a first impression. To be all revealing. I didn't need this trailer to even have a single lick of dialogue in it, but I think it needed to be something that made a bigger impression as they're trying to recalibrate the general public's feelings about the MCU overall, as the MCU has been pretty hit and miss lately. As you trying to start the campaign of getting people excited for this thing, of it being the first kind of little taste, little look. I just feel like it needed to be something more than Steve gets off a motorcycle, walks into a house and holding a baby. That's going to be key. Because If he's holding a baby there, that means one of the characters we've always known in the MCU is actually Steve Rogers' kid.
Maybe.
Get Maury Povich on the case.
What I don't know. What if it's Fricky Frack? Peggy's niece.
Oh,
Well, we know the character then, but the character's born in the 40s.
Boy, that would be weird
I know.
Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter.
But the
makes it
baby
awfully
would be
weird.
born in the 40s. So the
That's
MCU
true.
is
So,
in
but
2026.
So you're talking about somebody who's now in their 60s. But again, whatever, or 60s, 70s, 80s. But
somebody like
it's Hank Pym.
Professor X.
Professor X is.
I mean,
Steve
he does
Rogers'
have
son,
he does have super soldier serum.
and he does
in
have
him.
an English accent that he picks up off his mom.
Man.
I mean, that would be pretty dope, to be honest.
So anyway, I'm just saying that I think while I love Steve and I love Chris, and I thought it was one of the most important things is to bring Chris Evans back. If you really want to move on from the old era of the MCU, you have to have the heart and soul of the old era of the MCU there to right the ship, then move on. So I'm excited about that. I'm thrilled about that. But I'm just being honest, Rob. I say this as a Marvel fan. I'm a little underwhelmed from this. I thought it should have been a little bit more. But anyway, Rob, the two questions to you. The legitimacy of it, which, I mean, a lot of signs point to it being legit. And if we are assuming it is legit, how did you feel about it?
Well, I was talking to you last week. I watched Colton over at Screen Crush's video. It's like a 25-minute video about how Doomsday is going to be a direct sequel to Endgame. And he lays out this really convincing, very well-researched with examples of why this is the case. And we've been talking about Steve Rogers coming back. And I have to say, dude, I did watch this bootleg thing yesterday. And I just, I'm sitting in bed with my morning coffee, and I'm watching this horrible version of what the guy used AI to recreate or whatever. And I'm watching this, and by the time they cut to the shot where Steve Rogers is walking up the steps, and when you see his face and the camera pulls around, it looked like in this AI version there was an extra cut, but it comes around and you see the baby. I'm not going to lie. I had tears streaming down my face, only because I love Infinity War and Endgame, and I've been a comic book reader my whole life, that to see Steve Rogers come back after 6 years, and I've watched Infinity War and Endgame probably more times than is healthy to admit. So for me, it was like watching, I was like, oh my God, like literally, and it was one of those things where I didn't expect to have any emotional reaction. Literally, I just teared up, like literally teared up. Now, I don't think this is I think this is a teaser, and I think their gimmick is I think they're going to have 3 of these like individual scenes, and they're going to deliver a trailer in the end, because that's what I think they're doing.
Which again would be consistent with the fact that we know that there are going to be 4 trailers.
Yeah.
Perhaps the first 3 are going to be character focused.
I think they're going to be
Steve for
Yeah.
Doom.
Yeah.
And then a trailer.
Yeah, that's what I think they're doing. But I mean, like you said, Avatar's going to have its biggest. I understand why they're doing it. I can imagine, we heard they were doing like 30 versions of trailers.
Yeah.
And they're like, but we want to have this scene and we want to have this scene. And this is probably the compromise that they found out, they figured out what to do. But for me personally, and it's also because I've watched Endgame twice in the last week after watching Colton's video. So I've gone back and just watched certain scenes. So I was the guy to give this to yesterday morning with my morning coffee. And I was like, oh my God. And not because it was revelatory, but it was confirmation. It was confirmation of where my head had been at. Like, because Steve Rogers isn't just in this movie. He's a main character. And we were speculating he was not on Chair Watch. And if Steve Rogers wasn't on Chair Watch and he's a main character, who else?
Well, remember, there had been
is
a
in
lot of
this movie?
speculation that there was literally going to be a version of Chair Watch 2,
Right.
which has to be done differently than Chair Watch because that was an abomination. But
Yeah, we were still talking about it. It was a hoot.
we're talking about,
how bad
awful
it
it was.
yeah.
I just think that it wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure we're going to get a Doom. They've got to have a Doom one. They got to introduce
Yeah,
Doom.
I think, okay, if it is, okay, assuming that it's all legit and everything, let's say the pattern is now going to be, okay, character, traditional theatrical trailer. Then my guess would be video 1, Steve. Video 2, Thor. Video 3, Doom. Video 4, traditional theatrical trailer. I'm guessing that might be the pattern. What are you thinking?
Steve Rogers, Doom, wait for it, Wolverine.
No.
Yes.
I'll go 100% no on that.
I'm saying Wolverine because the X-Men. You're going to get an X-Men trailer, and that's going to be, you're going to see something because look, you've given us a piece of information that Steve Rogers and Captain Carter have a kid. So there's got to be a revelatory moment in each of these trailers. Otherwise, why do them? Like you said, I don't know what the Doom, I have no idea what the Doom revelatory moment is going to be, but the X-Men revelatory moment is going to be Wolverine in some way, shape, or form. Because it's $1 billion, that movie made $1.5 billion. And you got to look, you got Doom is new, Steve Rogers is coming back. A third trailer has to have that oomph.
Yeah, but it wasn't
and
a
Thor
Wolverine movie that made $1.5 billion. That was a Deadpool because no other Wolverine film has ever come close to that.
No, but no other Deadpool movie came close to 1.5 billion either.
No, again, and we talked for years about why that happened. And listen, I completely agree about, how great it would be. I
just think they have to get people excited. And if we're going to see the Fox X-Men, we got Xavier, we've got Scott, we've got Nightcrawler, we've got Rebecca Romaine coming back. Wolverine began that franchise. How can you not have Wolverine in this movie?
There are many ways to not have Wolverine in the movie.
I'm just saying.
We'll see. But listen,
by the way, I have no insider knowledge or anything like that of this.
I theorized on an open mic the other day, like before this leak. My theory was that the 4 trailers would be one that focused on the Avengers team, one that focused on the new Avengers, Thunderbolts, one that focused on X-Men, and then one that was just kind of more and all of them would feature Doom. So obviously my theory goes out the window on that, but I did think that one of them would focus on X-Men characters. But if they're bringing back Steve, I just wonder if they're going full speed with that whole idea of mine of recenter everything first, then move on, because they didn't do a good job of moving on after Endgame. They just didn't. So they get a second chance at it now. So feature the big 3: Steve, Robert Downey Jr., not necessarily Tony Stark, and Chris Hemsworth's Thor.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what though, I do not think you're right at all about the Wolverine one. But
It's okay.
But if they did,
wouldn't it be cool?
it would blow the roof off.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It would blow I don't think it's what
Yeah,
they're
that's
doing.
what
with the other X-Men.
It'll blow the roof off.
Okay, now I have one other question about this I want
Sure.
to ask you. At the end, I couldn't read when I was looking. I couldn't read over the Avengers.
I only saw the AI recreation of it.
Right. But I'm saying there was a time clock down there.
But it wasn't in the AI recreation.
Yes. No, and it says it's 19 weeks and like 29 days. That's over the end card.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, you had it up. So there's a countdown clock.
I see nothing.
Okay, in the
I just see Steve Rogers will return in Doomsday.
There it is.
That's not in the version I have.
Yeah, well the one that I watched yesterday had a countdown clock and the soundtrack is going deet deet.
Okay.
Deet. It's counting down.
I heard that was there. I'm just saying it wasn't in the AI recreation I had seen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I couldn't read it, but let's say this is correct. What's happening in 19 weeks and 29 days?
Disclosure
Which
day.
puts that into June.
Now, I'm seeing people in the live chat saying the actual version said like 12 months.
Oh, it did.
And that the 19 weeks is fake. That's what people in the live chats are saying. Live chat are saying. Because if it was, let's see.
But if you're doing an AI trailer.
If it is 19 weeks.
Yeah.
Then that would all but confirm what we have talked about on the show as a theory, which is Doomsday is actually going to be 2 movies.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because 19 weeks is not December, folks. It's summer.
And it's not September where they're re-releasing Endgame.
No, it is June or July.
It's June. End of June.
Which is, by the way,
middle of June.
Roughly in the window of when Doomsday was originally supposed to come out anyway. So if this clock is real, and we're not saying it is.
Yeah.
If the 19 weeks countdown clock is real, well, that does a couple of things. It would explain why are you dropping any trailers right now, a year before the movie comes out. But it would also mean one really big thing. That we're getting 2 Doomsday movies, and the first one is in December. The first one's in the summer, and December is going to be the second one.
And we get a re-release of Endgame with a different post-credit scene in September.
Or an additional post-credit scene. But it would also mean this, that within 18 months, take Endgame, the re-release of Endgame out of it. Within 18 months, we're going to have 3 Avengers movies.
Yeah.
We're going to have...
Just like the picture told us.
Just like I said.
We're going to have one in June. We're going to have one June or July, one in December, and one in the following December.
That's what I've been saying.
Well, again, I know we've talked about it here on the show. So if it is... Now, again, on this show, we cannot verify the veracity of any of that information.
Yeah.
But if we go into Avatar on Thursday, which I'm going to a 4 p.m. screening of Avatar on Thursday, and that is the trailer. Again, I still think that's an if, but if it is, and if that 19 weeks countdown clock plays, which again, we're not saying it will, but if it does, yeah, that means we're getting Doomsday in summer and a Doomsday Part 2 in December, and then Avengers Secret Wars the following December.
Because that's what I was thinking, because they would just say, why would you have a countdown clock? We all know the release date for Doomsday is December
somebody's
18th.
asking, why would they release, and I understand this. Let me read this question here. See, if you can find the Michael F2 fan one.
Okay.
It says, but they wouldn't release Endgame in September if Doomsday is out before. Do you see that?
I can't find it. I think so many came through.
Oh.
So now that is sound reasoning. Again,
Yes.
our user Michael is saying, but they wouldn't release Endgame in September if Doomsday is out before.
It's not what this picture
Sound
says.
reasoning, but let me proposition this. It does make sense if this post-credit scene that they're allegedly adding to the end of the new release of Endgame doesn't play into part 1 of Doomsday, but rather leads into something that's happening of part 2 of Doomsday that comes out in December. If that's the case, again, we are wildly speculating here, okay? Let's be very clear. We're just a bunch of movie fans sitting around speculating. It's for fun, okay? But again, if that's the case, if this post-credit scene is something that is directly meant to affect or set up something that's happening in the second Doomsday movie, then it would make sense to release it in September after Doomsday Part 1.
I would
theoretically.
I would posit if this is, let's just assume for a moment this is true. It's like if you watch the Star Wars movies, the original 6 in the machete cut order, where you watch if people
By the way,
get rid of,
never say the original 6. There was only the original 3.
Okay, you're right, the original 3. But if you watch the machete cut order, you go from Empire Strikes Back. Like machete cut is you watch Star Wars, the original Star Wars, Empire, then you jump back and you watch Attack of the Clones, and then Revenge of the Sith, and then watch Jedi. If you go in that route, Avengers Doomsday is going to come out, and all this stuff is going to happen. And people are going to wonder, rather than waste time with prologues or how could this go on, Doomsday is going to give you all of these questions. You're going to ask yourself, wait a minute. Then they're going to come out and our friend, Colton's breakdown video, you don't have to go to the breakdown video. You can watch Endgame and go, oh, and then they kill you with that final scene, whatever it is, and then they release Doomsday Part 2, and then it all becomes clear. And I mean, how epic. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I'd like to live in a world where they're doing something, because Marvel's done a lot of epic shit. But this would be not only epic for Marvel, this would be one of the most epic things ever done for a fantasy horror sci-fi franchise.
Let me throw out another curveball here, though. This is another thing that complicates it, though. Let's not forget that Marvel already has a major film coming out in the summer of 2026. Spider-Man Brand New Day. Is Marvel going to release a Spider-Man Brand New Day 3 weeks separated from a Avengers movie?
It'd be cool if they did.
I mean, it'd be
be very cool. Hello, shareholders.
But would they? Would they do that? I don't know that they would. Not that close.
I got a question. So they moved this movie. What did they have? Like, did they have? Remember we talked about release dates, Marvel release dates that were vacated,
Yes.
and things. Did somebody keep was this going to be an untitled Disney movie that has a release date for something in June of 2026?
That's a good question.
I mean, because remember, this is Disney, and if that's true, there is coordination between these two films. And I would say, and look, I just want to live. I still am waiting for Thor to say, "Ultron, we would have words with thee" in Age of Ultron, which never happened, but I still wish it did. So I would like to believe that things are going to be that cool.
Actually, I mean, Spider-Man Brand New Day is July 31st domestically. And if this lands on the first week of July, that's 7 to 8
that's
weeks.
6-7 weeks separated.
With this clock, yeah.
But with that clock, that's 7 to 8
and again,
weeks.
I can't emphasize this enough. We are not saying that clock is legit. We're just speculating. Okay, if it were, again, guys, remember, this is not fucking Entertainment Tonight. This is a bunch of fucking
I don't know.
sitting
We're
around
nerds.
movie fans
I'm wearing a
movies.
Tombstone T-shirt, for
I'm
God's
getting
sake.
the feeling that Feige just flipped his desk watching this segment. So
Damn it, they figured it out. Well, listen, guys, there's so much more to go into this, and we'll probably talk more about it a little bit tomorrow. But for now, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you believe in the legitimacy of this leaked trailer? I mean, there are a number of things suggesting that it is. And if it is, how did you feel about it? Do you think the clock is real? If it does, what is it? I mean, there's so
Because
much.
if that clock was on the thing that I saw, I just couldn't read all the numbers.
Right. So we'll find out. Anyway, guys, make sure you come back. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. Question is for you. Whatever you think about this whole thing, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's now time for us to move on to obviously the most important part of our show, which is taking your live comments and questions. I'm sure some of you have some thoughts and theories about this whole Avengers situation. Now, we have turned off the super chats because we already have a whole ton of them in there. But before we get to that, we got to do two things. First of all, big good afternoon to writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett. Great job as always, Rob. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
John, my man-child excitement is in overdrive about this.
It's
so
getting there.
excited.
And also, we need to take another second and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Aura. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of this video, Aura. Guys, if you are anything like me, you swear every year you're going to be on top of your Christmas shopping, and then suddenly it's December 20th, the shelves are empty, and you're standing around in Target asking yourself, does my aunt even like candles? But this year, I am not doing that because of Aura Frames. It's completely saved me. See, I always struggled with what to get people in my life, but this year I'm going to give out a couple of Aura Frames, and it's hands down the most personal, meaningful gift that I can possibly give. And here's the best part. Aura lets you upload unlimited photos and videos. Plus, the frame comes in a premium gift box with no price tag, so it feels like a classy, well thought out gift, even if you bought it last minute. Guys, you can't gift wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code CAMPEA at the checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code Campea. This deal is exclusive to our listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in on time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning that we sent you at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. And thank you to our friends at Aura for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, listen, we got a lot of questions to get to, so let's not waste more time. Jonathan, what we got up first?
First up, we got Salty Raccoon. Do you think Glenn Close is one of the best actresses without an Oscar? Versus Amy Adams, Sigourney Weaver. Also, she's amazing in Wake Up Dead Man.
You know what? It's weird. I just always have in my head she did win an Oscar.
It seems like she should have, or at least an
Especially
honorary.
when you go all the way back to, what's the one she did with Michael Douglas? The super... I'm freezing on the name of it for some reason. But
Fatal
yeah,
Attraction?
Fatal Attraction. I just have it in my head always like, oh yeah, she won an Oscar for Fatal Attraction, but maybe not. I mean, yeah, I don't think she's going to win an Oscar, but she will go down as one of the greatest actresses ever to not win an Oscar. And she is great in Wake Up Dead Man. All right, what's next?
We got Christopher, who says it's funny there are Star Wars fans legitimately more excited for Sebulba's return in the Galactic Racers game than for Rey returning for a solo film.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like, I don't think anybody's excited for the return of Sebulba, but the return of Sebulba within the context of a pod racer game, I loved that. I cannot wait for that game, because say what you want about all the prequels, and I have a lot to say about the prequels, but I think one of the things that was great in the prequels was the pod racing stuff. And so absolutely, I'm pretty stoked about that myself. All right. What's next?
Man of Action says, hey, John, Rob, Jonathan, I'm a big fan of the show. My question is for all three of you. It's a two-parter. One, on a future show, can you guys do a top 10 list of your most anticipated deep cut characters of the newly rebooted MCU and currently building and thriving DCU? Can we get details on that from you guys?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's not a video that I think sounds like it would have a lot of interest. I mean, we talk about the characters as they come and whatever. So I don't think we're going to do a video like that at any time soon. But listen, as hit and miss as Marvel has been, there have been a couple of really great characters they've introduced us to. I mean, chief of which for me is Shang-Chi. I love that character so much. And I love the new direction that DC is going in. There's going to be a lot to talk about, but I don't think we'll ever kind of do one editorial video like that. But thank you for expressing an interest in that. And who knows, maybe someday I'll have my mind changed and we will do something along those lines. But we're glad to hear it. Thanks for writing in, man.
Yeah, I feel like the DCU may be more so because it's so brand new.
Yeah.
But we got Christopher, who says, I'm glad they're making a new pod racer game, and the two are fan favorites, and there is a lot of cool stuff and tracks you can do with a pod racer game. I hope the sound design is great in that game.
I think the sound design in the pod race scene in the Phantom Menace is like some of the best sound design ever in the history of film.
It's awesome.
Like it's so, I could close my eyes and just listen to it. It's so good. And yeah, I think absolutely one of the highlights of the garbage prequels, and I'm really excited to play this game. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's gonna be great. All right, what's next?
X-Men Superfan says, I have a question about, I think he meant to say the trope or story element of haunting the narrative against fridging. Is Daisy Armstrong's character from Murder on the Orient Express haunting the narrative?
I have no idea what you mean by any of that.
Not sure about haunting the narrative.
I'll be honest with you, I've never heard the phrase. I'm not saying it's not legit. I'm just saying I'm not familiar with the phrase haunting the narrative, so I don't know what you mean by it, unfortunately. All right, what's next?
Luis says, they should make an Atrocitus and Dexter show film that would fit the new DCU perfectly. Imagine Andy Serkis as Atrocitus legendary.
I don't know what we're talking about.
We got a lot of deep cuts today, guys.
Yeah, those are ones listen, there's stuff I don't know about, and that's one of the things I'm not really familiar with. All right, what's next?
We got Elmo McElroy says, hey crew, I saw The Shining in IMAX last night. It was awesome. I sure hope movie theaters start re-releasing more classics. Oh, they've been re-releasing classics.
Oh, yeah, theaters. I mean, and it's been before the pandemic. It's been a big thing that you just got to find a theater around you that does them. But re-releasing classic films is not a new thing. It particularly kind of became in vogue during the pandemic because they had nothing else until the theaters themselves shut down.
But they kept it.
But even once the theaters reopened, Hollywood didn't have many new movies to put out, so they kept it. So it's not that unique or rare of a thing. You just got to keep your eyes open for what's going. But The Shining would be a great one to see in theaters, especially after watching Welcome to Derry.
Oh, yeah.
All right, what's next?
AL says, happy 10 years to The Force Awakens. I personally still love it and don't understand why some people rewrite history and say that it always sucked. The Force Awakens was the best of the three.
Force Awakens is great. Yeah, I remember John Schnepp and I, we literally went to go see it like 10 times. In the middle of the day, we'd walk over to the AMC Burbank 16 and go watch it like 10 times. Again, it's not on the same level as the original trilogy, obviously, but we really enjoyed it. Now, my thoughts notwithstanding on the other two ones, I always thought that first one was a lot of fun, huge entertainment value, highest grossing domestic film of all time. I really liked it. All right, what's next?
Emma X-Men Superfan says, what are your thoughts on fan service in comic book films in the form of cheesecake and beefcake?
Again, no idea what you mean by cheesecake or beefcake. All right, what's next?
Hollow Lord, Spielberg new film peek out at an alien-like arrival. It definitely has elements of...
What is it? Spielberg
new film peek out at alien-like arrival. I guess it has like a alien peek out like in Arrival, but I didn't see anything with tentacles or anything like that.
No, I'm not quite sure what they mean by that, but I mean, if you're saying it's kind of got like by the way, Arrival's a wonderful film. If it's saying it's kind of tones that, I think that's another one that's kind of got tones of too as well. Yeah. All right, what's next?
Christopher Diaz, John, did you see Zootopia 2 yet? What's your thoughts on it?
Nope.
Everyone else has.
Every day and every night has just been completely booked for us, and we still haven't seen it. And I'm looking forward to watching it. And I can't watch it tonight because it's our gift delivery night tonight. Can't watch it tomorrow because that's I can't say what it is tomorrow, but I got something tomorrow. And then I can't Thursday because I got Avatar Thursday. And I can't Friday because Friday I'm hitting the road. So it's going to be at least until the weekend that I get to see Zootopia 2. It's just been smashed.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Right. We got Riley who says, when will you do a New York City meetup? Lincoln Square.
Probably not. It definitely wouldn't be at Lincoln Square. If I do a movie meetup in New York, it'll be on the outskirts. Because remember, I got an 11-foot tall camper van that I cannot park anywhere near the inner city of New York. It'll have to be somewhere on the outskirts. So that will probably all happen sometime after the winter. So maybe even as early as April or May is probably when I'll target a New York one. All right, what's next?
Sphane says, have you seen the Pit season 2 trailer that dropped today? Looks really great.
Yeah, it does look great. I mean, I still can't get over. Listen, the medical procedural is such an old trope. It's been around forever.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how good the Pit was. Like how much it just totally drew me in and totally kept me engaged. The entire thing. I loved it. The characters are fantastic. And I think season 2 is going to be great. And I thought the trailer was really good to set it all up. All right, what's next?
Phoenix says Regal is doing a series of re-releases in January called Back to the Beginning with the first movie in a bunch of great franchises such as Dune, Spider-Man, Batman Begins, Conan, John Wick, 31 titles total. That's cool. And
that's an awesome idea.
And Conan, man, I've always wanted to see that on the big screen.
And I've never seen Conan on the big screen. But that is such a great idea. Back to the beginning and doing the origin films of these. Terrific idea. I hadn't even heard about this. Thank you for putting that on my radar because there's going to be a couple of those I've never had a chance to see on the big screen. I'm definitely like Conan. I'm definitely going to go for some of those. All right, what's next?
We got Ryan who says Oscar shortlist dropped today. Looks like some positive news for Sinners, Wicked for Good, and One Battle After Another.
I haven't seen the short. It must have dropped after we were already deep in prep for the show. I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, I do expect a number of nominations for all those, especially Sinners. I think Sinners is going to qualify in a lot of different categories. It's still my personal, I think, best film of the year right now, but I still got to see one or two other ones. But right now, Sinners is still my number one film.
Also, just real quick, because I had to look it up, Haunting the Narrative, a storytelling concept for a character with a sparse but impactful presence, whose absence, death, or limited actions profoundly shape the story's plots, themes, or characters. So maybe like Queen Elizabeth in Shakespeare in Love, something like that.
All right, let's keep moving here.
Brendan, how confident are you that Doomsday and Secret Wars aren't going to be mediocre? Being even close to Endgame Infinity War seems so unlikely nowadays. If it doesn't do you think Marvel will ever recover?
It doesn't have to. Look, guys, it doesn't have to be on the same level as Infinity War and Endgame. Like, it's such a common, this is go back to my movie blog days. As soon as any movie's coming out that's like, has to do with like a crime movie, the first question is, but is it as good as The Godfather? Well, it doesn't need to be as good as The Godfather. Just be good.
Just has to be as good as Goodfellas. That's all.
I mean, look, what Marvel needs to do is just, they need to make these movies good. They don't have to be the greatest comic book movies ever made. They don't have to exceed Infinity War and Endgame. They just got to be really good. Now, how confident am I that they're not just going to be mediocre? Well, I mean, let me put the question to you. What does history tell you? The Russo brothers and Kevin Feige in history have made 4 films together. Okay, 4. Those 4 films are Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. Those are the 4 times the creative team of Kevin Feige and Joe and Anthony Russo have made a film together. That's the history. Now, does that mean it's going to be as good as Infinity War and Endgame? Not necessarily. Does it automatically mean that it can't possibly be mediocre? Well, even Steven Spielberg, the greatest filmmaker of all time, has made a couple of not so great films. But I feel pretty confident that these movies are at least going to be pretty damn good, at very least. Why do I feel that confidence? Because that's what the pattern has been. That's been the history. Every single time that creative team has made a movie together, it's been every one of those four is in the conversation of the greatest comic book movie of all time. So I feel pretty confident it'll be more than just mediocre. It'll at least be pretty darn good. And I think history shows that. All right, what's next?
Josh says, "Hey John, if you were told by the Academy that you were in charge of picking the 8 to 10 Best Picture nominees for the Oscars, which are you picking?"
I'm not going to do that right now. We'll save that for another time, for a little bit later in the year.
That's almost like a segment.
Yeah, it is. That's going to be a segment later.
Because we have to break that down. Yeah, keep a lookout.
All right, what's next?
Amin, if you or any of the viewers haven't seen it, was just an accident yet. It's out now, available on VOD. Check it out when you can.
Yeah, I've been fascinated by this movie ever since I saw the first previews for it. Because it's another one of these, like, you take this character's like, what do you do? Sort of scenarios. It looks great. There was never an opportunity for me to see it anywhere near me. So I didn't hear that it had dropped on VOD yet, but that's going to be hot. Probably once I hit the road, I'll probably watch it in the van. But I've been looking forward to this ever since the first previews came out. All right, what's next?
There's a week. Oh no. So Phoenix says there's a week of famous directors. First, films 2 included. This is the film festival he's talking about, like the re-releasing. Nolan's Following, which has never played in theaters outside of a few small ones, and Nolan released a statement on it and is involved.
That's cool. You know what? I've never seen that one.
Yeah.
My first Christopher Nolan film, like a lot of people, was not Insomnia. Sorry,
Inception.
Memento.
That was mine too.
Like most people, that was my first introduction to Christopher Nolan.
Saw that at ArcLight Hollywood.
But and by the way, Insomnia is still my favorite Christopher Nolan film.
Mm-hmm.
Just a side note there. But again, this whole series that they're doing sounds excellent. All right, what's next?
X-Men Superfans says, why do you think Zack Snyder's way of framing men in films is so appealing to straight, gay, bisexual men alike? It's unique style, isn't it?
I don't see anything unique
They're just
about it.
Good characters.
Yeah, film history is filled with well done, great characters that will appeal broadly and to everybody. I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, broad appeal is exactly.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything particularly, to be honest with you, I don't think there's anything particularly unique about that when it comes to Zack Snyder. So I don't really think there's an angle there.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Josh says that disclosed teaser trailer was great. The initial marketing really reminded me of the initial trailer and marketing for the original Cloverfield.
I don't know. I think this one was a little bit more traditional teaser than, say, the marketing campaign for Cloverfield. I mean, Cloverfield, that just thing, nobody had any idea what that movie was going to be.
Yeah.
Like even when they started the marketing campaign, everyone's like, what? What? Okay, wait a minute. There's a broken Statue of Liberty, so there's a monster? Whereas, I think the Disclosure Day teaser is really good, but I think, at least my feeling on it is, and you could be right and I could be wrong, but my feeling on it is that this was a really good trailer, still covered in mystery, but it still felt like more of a traditional marketing piece, a really good one, than the Cloverfield one, which was totally wild for its time. All right, what's next?
Okay, HVC says, what do you think of the Minnesota Wild trading for Quinn Hughes? And now there are rumors that we are also going to go after Sidney Crosby too.
Well, look, the Sidney Crosby thing, there has been whispers for a couple of years about Sidney Crosby. Look, I think Sidney wants to finish his career in Pittsburgh, but it wouldn't be the first time in sports that, like, one of the greats later in their career moves on and goes somewhere else. Wayne Gretzky himself left Edmonton. So, it's possible, but I just find it's hard for me to picture Sidney Crosby in anything other than a Penguins jersey, but we'll see. All right, what's next?
We got Civic Republic Military. John had a log off X. Somebody leaked images of Spider-Man Brand New Day. First the Doomsday teaser leak, and now this. What's going on?
You would think, look, it's extremely difficult in an age where everybody walks around with an audio-visual global communications device in their pocket. It's hard to keep anything secret. For things like, but still, I am agog and aghast that if the Avengers Doomsday trailer is legit, and a lot of signs point to that it is, that how did they let that happen? How did they let that get out? And I guarantee you there's going to be a manhunt going on for whoever did it, and they'll find them. They'll find them, and it'll never make it into the news, and it'll never be in any of the outlets, but they're going to find whoever did it. And oh God, that person's life is going to be ruined. So but I don't know how they let them do it, even in such an age, but who knows, man, who knows? All right, what's next?
I think we're going to have the same answer on this, but X-Men Superfan says, what's your favorite tragic love story in film? I bet you we could, in 3, 2, 1, Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge. Yeah, 100%. Again, that movie is just gorgeous and beautiful, and you cannot help but get so weepy on it. It's just so beautifully done, and yeah, it's just perfect to me. It has been and continues to be in my top 20. It's not in my top 10, but Moulin Rouge is in my top 20 films of all time, and that's one of the big reasons why. All right, what's next?
Sebastian with a $20 super chat says,
Thank you, Sebastian.
Says, hey, John, did you hear Vin Diesel wrote a role for Cristiano Ronaldo in the next Fast X movie?
I did not. If he did, that's stupid. I love Vin. Don't get me. I love Vin Diesel. I do. But like writing a role to put an athlete in your movie who's not an actor, unless he's meant to play himself. We've seen that before, right? If you write a role for Cristiano Ronaldo to be Cristiano Ronaldo in the movie and there's a role for that, okay. But if it's to like just put him in your movie as an actor, well, go get somebody who's actually an actor to do that. But anyway, that's just me. All right, what's next?
Jim Kalura, motorcycle aficionado here. In the leaked Doomsday trailer, I immediately noticed that the H in the Triumph logo has Steve's bike is distorted. Clear sign it's fake.
Again, I have only visually seen the AI recreation of that trailer. And so whatever was recreated in AI there, I can't really say. So I'm just, don't bring it up, Jonathan, but I'm looking at it right now. And in the AI recreation, I'm not seeing the Triumph logo at all. So I can't say. But I mean, that could be a sign of it. Maybe, or it could just be bad video quality, bad pixels. Mm-hmm. I mean, you never know, but you might be onto something, might not be. We'll see. Well, again, we're only 2 days away from Avatar Fire and Ash coming out and this trailer actually dropping. So we'll know in about 2 days. All right. What's next?
Francois, do you think Bill will get any award noms for killing it as Pennywise in Welcome to Derry?
Well, sir, we'll get any what?
Let's see, award noms. So I'm guessing Emmy.
Listen, Skarsgård as Pennywise was fantastic. Like really fantastic. You know what? Yeah. I'm going to say there is a possibility. I'm not going to predict it, but I won't be shocked at all if he ends up getting a Best Supporting Actor nomination, drama.
Yeah.
At the next Emmys. I won't be shocked. I'm not going to predict it, but I won't be shocked because he really is good. He's really good in this. All right, time for like 3 more.
All right, Hollow Lord just gives a little emoji there.
Oh, thank you, Hollow Lord.
Support. X-Men Superfan says, do you think that Howard Ashman's and Alan Menken were the best lyricists?
Listen, you're talking now about the 1950s era of Disney, and I'm not really familiar with it, unfortunately, so I can't really give an opinion on it.
We got Thagerzor, I think. What's better, multiple streaming services that bring costs up as much as cable, or that they merger cutting costs, but potentially cutting jobs as well? Well, I don't know that, the services merge. Well, I guess if they're merging, that he's saying that the actual studios are merging.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a question that we're having to wrestle with right now. Because remember, at first, the promise of streaming was a much reduced cost compared to cable. And that's not the reality. The reality is we're paying more. Like if we get all the streaming services to make sure we can see all the good stuff that's out there, we are today paying more than we ever did for cable. But what's the ideal? That it stays that way or we get less content? I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I mean, it's a great question and one we're going to have to continue to wrestle with, but I really don't know. All right, what's next?
We got Inspector Guru says, "Hey John, what has been your popcorn buttering technique of choice since you've been on the movie tour?"
Well, I mean, I don't often do the straw technique anymore. Again, I pioneered the straw technique of putting a straw into the popcorn, dispensing the butter through the straw, and then working it the way up and then just topping it off. But I haven't been doing that a lot lately, simply because it takes so long and it can be messy. And I've been doing it less and less. Plus, so because I kind of found a new technique. Here's my new technique. My new technique is a little bit wasteful, but you guys know, I've told you before, I never eat the whole popcorn box. I never eat the whole box. I sometimes rarely do more than half. Usually it's about a third to a half of the popcorn that I actually eat. So what I have begun to do is I take the popcorn over and either I pour some into a separate box for Ann, because Ann doesn't like her popcorn buttered. But if Ann's not with me, I literally first take the popcorn box over and I dump some of it in the trash. I know that's wasteful, but I get it so there's about this much space between the top of the box and where the popcorn is. What I then do is then butter heavily the top and then do the pancake flip motion with the popcorn box to rotate the popcorn. Then I butter it heavily again, rotate, butter it heavily again. So that's been my new technique. It's a lot faster than the straw technique, less chance for spillage, but it does mean I waste some of the popcorn, but I wasn't eating all of it anyway. All right, what's next?
Monkey Tongue says, "Do you think the re-release of Endgame pushes its box office past Avatar?"
I've been asked that and I said no initially, but then when we heard they may be adding a new post-credit scene, that's going to be enough for some people who wouldn't go out just to see Endgame on big screens again, because we just watched it on Disney. That might be enough to get enough people to go to it that it may push it over. So we'll have to see.
To have to make 120.
Yep.
Krypton Cage. John, why is the quality of your primary cam weird now? I don't know. We've been working on settings on it.
I think it was yesterday, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's as much today.
Yesterday, the camera did a weird thing where it was doing auto settings, and so we had to turn that off.
We had some technical issues with the camera yesterday, but I think today we've got it nailed and back to the right thing.
We got David who says, "Is Tobey Maguire ever going to be Spider-Man again?" Some say in Secret Wars, but who knows?
My guess is still no, but that's a guess. I don't feel really convicted about that anymore. I used to feel very convicted that, nope, that's it. But I still think the answer is no, but you never know. It's possible.
Yeah. And here's our last one from sports guy Corey. "Ralph Fiennes may be the best actor without an Oscar, but Josh Brolin might be my number 2 on that list."
Listen, I love Josh Brolin. I think he's great. But I wouldn't say that. I think Josh Brolin is wonderful. And I think it's very possible that someday he could get an Oscar. Mm-hmm. But do I think he is the second best actor in the world that doesn't currently have an Oscar? No. Yeah, and that's no disrespect to Josh Brolin. He's great. My God, he's so good in Wake Up Dead Man.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd put him that high. But that's just me. That you're not wrong for putting him that high. It's all subjective. I'm just saying I myself probably wouldn't put him that high.
Yeah.
All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Hey guys, don't forget to come back and join us again tomorrow. We're going to have a whole new list of stuff to talk about, including, I'm sure, a little bit more about this trailer that we have coming out on top of a lot of other things. We hope to see you then. I want to thank, of course, Robert Meyer Burnett for being here, our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys.
My name's John Campea, guys, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.